I don't know. To me, that's a bit. It's a false reading of history because, like, if you actually read what people said when they were putting together the republic, they were terrified of the idea that people that weren't landowners would have, an influence on politics. You had to be rich to decide how the money would be spent because a lot of it was your money. And it wasn't fair if these people that didn't have any money had
because
control of how the money would be spent.
that's not what I think is the problem. The problem is just corruption is just how a state of mind. Put it that way. Whatever is legal is not corrupted. So if it's legal to steal, it's not corruption. You understand what I mean? It's like It's like it's legal to just by force take a X percentage of your salary and put it somewhere else, be it a fund or be it tax. And in any other situation, that's called stealing or robbing.
So what happens when the law breaks down and there is no law? Then you have no corruption?
This is anarchy. So it's just a matter of agreeing. It's just a group of people agreeing on the rules that everybody will play along. That's it. There is no real. It's just to prevent. So it's just to make things predictable. So we it's now predictable. Okay, so we are in Singapore. You know that no one have guns because that's the rules that we agree on. No guns. So we don't expect people to die suddenly. Or when we get angry, we start to take our gun and shoot each other. That's the United States problem. That's what they do because they agree that no, we should have guns. So in Singapore, that's a crime. Even if you own a live bullet, that I think might be death sentence, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, you're not supposed to have any like killing stuff. So, but of course, I don't think they will give a death sentence for a bullet. But then they will highly question, and then you probably get a lot of years in jail. So, but when in the United States says okay, even covering up of the taxes, how you're going to distribute the taxes, I don't think that's called corruption. It's just an agreement on how you want to run the whole show. So it's just that the communists have the stupid idea of everything must be equal. So it's human being greedy, it will never work. So end up someone will take more, and that's corruption. But the thing is, in a capitalist country, someone taking more is not corruption. That's just meritocracy. He worked harder, so he get more. You're more stupid, he's more clever, so he managed to get more, so he's not corrupted. So it's like in United States, there is all these super PACs and whatever lobbying, corporate lobbying. In Singapore, it's illegal. It's illegal to lobby. You can lobby through the proper system. We have a proper system of unions. Through the unions, that you can actually feedback, because the union in Singapore, we call it the tripartite alliance. So basically, it's the unions, the government, and the workers, something like that. So there's a triangle kind of thing where they work together and try to make decisions. It's like a feedback system. And Singapore, the government essentially controls the National Trade Union Congress. Basically, it's the leader of all unions. So the government basically controls it, and so there is no strikes. Any strikes, you have to be endorsed by this NTUC, and there are instances in our history that the NTUC chief, which is supposed to be the political leader, decides to endorse the strike, and that horrifies the political leaders, the political party, because the freaking the boss who is supposed to be part of the party endorsed the strike, and that happened before, and this person essentially eventually became the president, one of the president, who the moment he became president starting to do his job as a president. So Singapore's president is supposed to secure the reserve. So you have to protect the reserves, because Singapore reserve is a lot. So he was the first elected president. Previously, presidents is always appointed. It's just a figurehead. They are not supposed to do anything. So Lee Kuan Yew was worried that when he died, there is no check and balances, because essentially there wasn't any check and balances. He's the dictator. So he gave the president the job of securing the reserve. So he's like, atomic bomb, you need 2 keys, right? He's one of the key. So the parliament have 1 key, the prime minister have 1 key, the president have the other key. So the president must agree, then they can take money out of the reserve. But this president, who previously was the Union Congress chief, who agreed with the strikes, literally did his job. He just asked, so how much is the reserve? What is the balance sheet? Then the government was like, what the fuck? We don't have a balance sheet of the entire reserves. It took us 3 to 4 years until almost the end of his term before he get all the amount. So that was something that happened in Singapore. Hi Dan.
Hello. We have a freaking thunderstorm and it's been raining all day. Do you guys start or am I
No, we're just chit-chatting.
We're just chatting while we wait for everyone to turn up.
All right.
But that's cool because we have to kind of experiment with the new format. So we wait for these guys.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, that's the new format.
There's something Toby prepared.
This one is for when we have like a document, but no one supplied documents.
Oh.
So that's a bit sad.
Yeah, you will look like Yeah,
send some photos.
You can this. Yeah, but it's very small because of the screen. So I don't think this works. You probably prefer this or this.
Damn, there's a lot of options. This is probably the best one for big ones. Big photos.
Yeah. So we were talking about corruption and government.
So Wyatt, what is the law like in Singapore? Like, how is it structured? Is it all based on British common law, or
the foundation was British common law. That's the foundation.
Okay.
And then from there, we iterate into something that is our own. So that's why we have similar laws. I think Australia, India, Singapore, Malaysia, we all have very similar laws, and which is why I believe all of us have Internal Security Act as well. So all of us can catch people without going to trial. Yeah. So in Malaysia have that. Singapore also have that. I think Malaysia was trying to.
It seems like from what you say about Singapore that there's a lot more respect for the law there, and that the law is also like a lot more consistent, because in America and Australia, the law is breaking down. Like there's a lot of things that have happened recently that, like especially like you look at America, equal application of the law. People don't understand the Hunter Biden situation. How is it that Hunter Biden doesn't get charged but Trump does? And in Australia, with the whole COVID thing, a whole bunch of laws just got thrown out the window, and it's creating big problems because people don't know if they can see their doctor anymore. It's like, is there such a thing as informed consent anymore? Is there not? So, yeah, I don't know. It seems like Singapore has a much greater respect for the law, and there's much more social cohesion because of that.
There is greater, but there is also question about the judicial system, whether it's fair, because even Singaporeans, we are noticing that there are smaller criminals that get slightly is quite heavy kind of judgment, and then we have people who corrupted for millions and millions of dollars get away with by 7 years jail kind of thing. It's like, wow, that's worth it, man. If you can steal a few $1 million and then you just get a few years jail, as compared to you steal some like $50-$100 and you also get 7 years jail, then might as well steal more. There is some problem with this in Singapore. So of course there is corruption, I believe. There is behind the scene deal making for sure. But
we had a situation here. It's blown up because a federal judge had a court case that started in 2017, and she just did not bother to turn up or hear the case. And in 2023, the case is still waiting to be decided. So that's 6 years. And this is a company case involving businesses. And it's a big scandal because she ends up resigning, and then some other judge got given the case, and he decides it in a couple of months. And in his judgment, he said this is unacceptable.
Yeah, that's corruption.
So now it's not really corruption. It's just not even turning up to do your job. But this
100% he received something. She confirmed received something. There's no possible that she unless she's like just lazy, just pure lazy.
That's what it is. She just did not turn up to do the job, right? And the thing is, it's like at that stage, the businesses are like, what can we do? We can't even do business. We can't even get a decision. And the
Sorry to
answer
interrupt.
is,
Who do I send the photos to? Wyatt or you?
Either, but send it to me. I'll get the practice. But you can dump it in the DPA chat, and I'll get it.
Gotta send these things that I need.
We are supposed to have Waka and Maddie, right? I got a bad feeling they will not turn up. so then don't put your hopes too high.
No, there's a few things that I want to talk about, which is what I've been trying to say for a long time. These photos that I sent to the DPA war panel, I just want to go over these things and then talk about how they've affected the war and how they've been used. I just have to find another map.
Yeah, because I'm sure they already forgotten about it. So forgot about the panel. Yeah, that's the problem. It's difficult to arrange. Yeah, that's why when I do open mic, I don't ask people. It's just based on my energy level. If I ask people, right, it never happens.
And your energy level is fucking crazy because you're on when I'm like, this motherfucker can't be on right now. It's 2 a.m. Welcome to the best politics Asia. What the fuck? 2 in the fucking morning. Yeah, you're definitely on a like Western time.
Yeah. I'm usually on European time. Usually.
What does your wife tell you? Like, dude.
As long as there's money, it's okay. It's easy to convince when there's money involved. It's very hard if you like doing all these things. You neglect the family, and then don't have enough time for the family, and then like you don't even bring in money. It's just a hobby. You mean you just chit chat on a Telegram and Twitter?
Could you imagine if it was just a hobby for you? It would be insane. You would lose your wife if it was just a hobby. It's over.
So, which is why I emphasize, to previously, always that the revenue is very important. The views is very important because if there's no revenue, there's no way I can continue this because it makes no sense. Because it's way too much time. Like I didn't do the sit rep for 3 days, so I have to do like three and a half actually. So because by the time I was finishing, it was too late, and then I have to do like half a day stuff of mapping. That took me 6 hours straight. 6 hours straight of mapping. My freaking god!
I don't know how you do it.
So every day is.
Don't understand.
Every day is 4 hours. If I just do every day, sometimes it can be 3.5. But usually I realize I cannot be faster. It's always around 4 hours, because maybe partly I'm slightly distracted because I'm always on the YouTube video. I will be half watching, half doing. So, if not, life will go crazy. It's like you can't take it. So I'm doing that every day. So I want to speed up, I can't. So there's I haven't covered Sudan for people already forgot there's a war happening over there.
I have a question. Do you do single takes like through and through?
Yeah, single takes. So which is why I have all the mistakes, all the funny jokes, because it's like sometimes I just misspoke.
Yeah.
Like tampon bridge. Then after that I will say tampon bridge. After 2 minutes later I was like I realized I said the wrong one.
I put the videos on extra loud so my woman can hear it because she loves hearing you fucking trying to pronounce the words like different villages and towns. Dude, it's fucking hilarious. That's in itself a meme. It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Okay,
Yeah,
so this is me adding the things to show this. And
Wow,
then
that's amazing.
and so then this would be you talking about it with the other guys down the bottom here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give
I could
Toby.
make another template which is just one person, but this is keeping the other guys that'll be in the stream there.
So what happens is that for the StreamYard, I actually gave Toby and Coping, both of them admin powers because I can trust them enough to control it. Because the last time,
I can't control shit.
so with Coping was that
It's in the head. Jesus
I overslept.
Christ.
I overslept for the panel recording. So then I realized that no, I'm too busy. So I think that if I have because Coping was really enthusiastic and organizing all these things, was like maybe he can have the power so that he can continue to record without me around. Then after that, Toby also, I also gave Toby the same thing. After that, yeah, but that I can only have like four people, including myself.
I think it's important. Like the Coping and his little group are freaking super enthusiastic. They're gonna produce videos about fucking economics, geopolitics.
Yeah.
Those motherfuckers are going off.
Mm.
And like I think that if Toby, because out of the military panel, I don't think that anybody has the enthusiasm to fucking go on and start switching shit. I mean, like if you're not here and it's just Toby and me talking about something, or Mehdi, it's really important to have somebody on the military panel because we need to start producing stuff, man. There's a lot of things that are happening that I want to have on record. Ever since the Real Reporter came again, I'm like, fuck, man. There's a lot of shit that needs to be said. Like, if you look at the things that I sent Toby, this turning movement is gonna be like the new effective way to do it. Why? Because you don't have to go into cities. You could just have to push out the enemy. The Russians are gonna start learning. Hey, maybe we shouldn't fight here. They're just gonna take advantageous positions, like you said. Like, hey, take the high ground. That moves the enemy out of places and secures places. Like you don't have to fight.
Yeah.
This is what I call like island hopping. The turning movement is what I call island hopping, like what they did to the Japanese.
That's
But
what the Russians
I'm
did,
really happy.
right? So that's what the Russians did at Staromayorsky. They don't really care about the village itself. It's like the Ukrainians are celebrating. We have captured Staromayorsky. It was like, come on, man. What can you do with it? It's like you cannot even entrench yourself in it. The high ground, the side is all the Russians controlled. So I did in my report. I say that the Ukrainians did not actually have full control. And the report suggested by pro-Russian sources suggests that they got pushed. They have to retreat out into the outskirts to go back to camp in a sense. So they have to take the flanks, the entire western part, and then they have to go south and capture the southern parts, southern outskirts. Then they can secure the village, which is now we can confirm because the Russian defense military say that they defended against Ukrainian attacks that try to have a foothold in the northern part of the Staromayorsky. It's like they haven't captured the town. It's like you can't capture the town.
These type of things, can you imagine how many small battles have been happening through the entire conflict? And the reason why I gave Toby these little pointing arrows is because war is, if you go back 10,000 or whatever, since the Greeks were fighting 2,000, 3,000 years, they're using the same formations and the same things in real time, but in smaller units. So I always find it fascinating when you're mapping and you're drawing these arrows. They're still relevant today, as relevant as they were 2,000 years ago. It's
the same
awesome.
thing. It's just like you playing computer games. You know that you're not gonna bash straight. You go around or make use of the terrain. It's just any war gamers would know basic stuff. Which is why that's why it makes Wagner's strategy looks very bad, because when you really think about it, you kind of can understand why the Russian MOD don't like them, because they are doing things not the Russian way, and they are they're just fighting unnecessary battles like Bakhmut. Why the hell do you have to bash into the city? You don't have to just go around it. Once you fully encircle the city, or you're almost going to encircle the city, the Ukrainians are going to run, man. So you're going to just, but the thing is very hard. That's why I don't think the Russians ever plan to capture Bakhmut, because once you have Bakhmut, you have Chasivia, then you have Konstantinivka. It's too big a pincer. It's way too big a pincer to for them to do, because they just not enough troops to do such a massive pincer where you encircle 3 different cities altogether. You're gonna have to do a 2-3 years long siege.
So you think Wagner basically took it on their own initiative?
100%. That's
That's
why
interesting.
all
I heard you say that, and I was like, that's kind of interesting.
that's the whole politics about it. If you look at where the defense line, the first line of defense, where they put all the so-called first line of defense in Donetsk, where they put all the tooth, all the teeth and the anti-tank trenches, it's not at Bakhmut. It's actually the line way behind. I'm not sure if I can show you where the real line of defense. So when I first saw the line of defense, I was thinking, oh, the Russians have no confidence, man. They think that the Ukrainians are going to counterattack. But the reality is that's actually where the Russian MOD wanted to kind of hold, and then Wagner just go ahead and just conquer everything. And then now, so that causes the Russian forces have to hold ground that they actually originally don't want to hold, because it's not as comfortable to hold those places. So that's what I think. But that's what I think.
My opinion is, like, whether they planned it or not for Wagner to do that, I think it was eye-opening for the Ukrainians. It literally turned into the black hole that it should, like, strategically, it's not, you don't want to do it. You never want to throw fucking bodies at it, especially if you can't replace them. And what is Wagner? They could replace those fucking prisoners. They can replace they're mercenaries. Essentially, they are nothing, which is something you don't want to fight against. Like, you don't want to fight against somebody who's completely high on opium, and if he manages to kill your friend, but you kill him, it's like it wasn't a fair trade. That's just the way I saw it. To me, it was like, Jesus Christ, the Ukrainians are still not leaving. I would watch your reports, and you're like, yeah, they haven't left. And writing on the chat, like, how are they not left yet? Just leave.
The whole world is wondering. It's like, you should retreat now. 1 month later, they're still there.
It was crazy, dude. I can't believe it.
Because as Ukraine, you don't have. If you know that you don't have enough forces to break through, you don't have to attack. You can hold back. You dare the Russians to come, because the Russians are entrenched as well. So you dare to come, you come. You try. You leave your foxhole and you come to us. The Russians will not. The Russians will just sit there. So the whole front line will just be like Zaporizhia in most of the last year.
Yeah, it would have been like that, literally.
So you can just leave it, nothing to happen. Then you wait for your freaking Abrams to come. Wait for the challengers to come. You have a massive big ball of shit. Then you go and punch. Now they are.
Pull up that map again, Toby, because he's talking about is essentially what's happened. All these lines. This is day 20, where Russians are just punching out, and this is when Russia was totally out of control. You hear like lines were being bombed. Like, this is it right here. Letting the Russians come caused major havoc for them.
No, but this one, there's no defense line here, which is why they come. But if you talk about like in current lines, the Russians, the Ukrainians have good lines as well. So the thing is, the Russians, when they attack, it's difficult for them as well. So you can just hold your position, and then you wait for your F-16s, you wait for your everything. Then you have a proper combined arms arrangement. Then you can actually go on the proper way of attacking. So now they attack in Zaporizhia without air cover, without attack helicopters. Then what the hell are they thinking? United States will never fight a ground war without helicopters. There must be an Apache flying around at the rear. You must have at least the F-15s, trying to fight for the skies.
Yeah. It's trickled in, man. It's trickled in, and that's the part that that confuses me, is because you give them the first thing, then you give them the second thing. They've been using it, in an ineffective way, and now they say, oh, now we're going to do this. Like, it's too late. It's too late. Have we confirmed if those leaks were real or not? Because this is tying into what the hell those leaks were talking about. They were going to have some offensive, and they had all these weapons, and now they've been using them, and now they're going to lose them because they're using them ineffectively. But going to this point, in the beginning of the war, I wanted to talk about how the Russians would push in places where they weren't ready to push into. And that's where you got all those memes about Russian tanks being lost, them running out of gasoline. This is probably the worst point of the war for the Russians, and they cleaned this up immediately.
I just want to try something. I'm going to try and remove myself and see if I can still move the images around
Yeah,
and
you can.
control it from
100% can. 100% you can, because that's what I do during the open mic. I just dropped into the military panel, the where the defense line actually is. You'll be shocked how far it is.
I don't think you can hear me if I'm outside the
Yeah,
stream.
you cannot.
But okay, but I can hear you. I can see what you're doing, and so I can change the slides.
Correct,
You know what I mean? So I can be like the support guy in the background. But listen, I wanted to ask you guys about this, specifically Wyatt. I don't want to take over Wyatt's channel, and like I'm keenly aware that there's no money in the panels. That's why it's like I would be right into organizing more panels, except that there's no money in it, and it's your time, you know, because I don't want to do streams where you're not there. Again, it's your channel, but I also don't want to do streams that make you like $1.50 either, because that's 5 hours of your time, right? And that's not cool.
No,
It's
not that little money. The I think
it's pretty small.
Usually panels are like, I get like between $12 to $25, I guess. But it's not the money. It's just about, you know, transmitting information. So to transmit to let you guys have a chance to share your views to a wider audience. So, but panels is more organized, which is why, you know, I can put it on the main channel. And then because VC is I'm not there, so and then it's not within this setup. It's not a DPA branding, which is why I don't want. And usually we don't do streams. We should record, because recordings have more reach than streams actually. Yeah, usually streams don't really go as far as recording in terms of YouTube algorithm. Yeah.
Unless you have a really cool thumbnail. Dude, I have a stream that I did that's doing way better than my other things. And that's because I put on the thumbnail live in red, and it's people just clicking thinking I'm live still.
Oh, that's it.
It's classic.
Oh, I should steal that. No, I should put the live on my thumbnails.
Dude, you don't put live on your open mic live things? Open live.
I should create a new thumbnail for the DPA open mic.
Yeah, so listen, this is going to work really well, this idea of, because what I'm doing at the moment, guys, is I'm actually downloading the JPEGs from Telegram. I've got a JPEG to PDF converter page open on Google. So I'm converting them to PDFs, downloading them to my picture files, and uploading them back into StreamYard. And they're all there. So now I can just switch between them all on this template. And then if we're not using them, I can go back to this template to give the main speaker focus. So this is actually working out really well. It's how I'd hoped it would work out. So I'm kind of glad we've got this time before doing the stream, because it allows me to get all Dan's photos and your photos and other documents you might want to put up.
Trust me, we won't be doing the recording today for sure.
Oh, possibly not, but it's good practice anyway. It's really good practice. But the other thing is, Wyatt, you know, like, this is the thing. I like to do this because I keep saying I'm going to, but I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and I kind of like, I look up to you guys because you've actually done it. And I think it's good to have a network too, you know, and no doubt it will help me if I try to grow a YouTube channel. But I'm also like learning how to do this. But I don't want to take over. Like, I don't want to start organizing your channel for you. And I'm really skeptical about organizing panels because it's a lot of your time, you know?
Yeah, so, I give you the control because you were organizing like there way too many like planning into it. So I thought that, you know, in case I overslept, you know, the recording can still go on. That was my worry then. So yeah, so because nowadays I'm very busy, which is why I'm very worried that I know I will miss the panel. And so I was this. You can see where the defense line was. Yeah, it was along the water body, and then it was along all the way up, which is not close to the front line. Is you see, Bakhmut wasn't even captured at this point of the map. Bakhmut was the dot, the blue dot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you can see that that's where the Russians originally have their defense line. This is where they build the defense line. So as a result, I don't think that they plan to go so far. It's like that means everything be in front of the defense line. These are places where the Russian military is willing to lose. The problem is now that if they lose it, the PR damage is very big. That's why the capturing of Bakhmut is a problem, because imagine the Russian military lose Bakhmut. Oh my god, the approval ratings, everything will fall.
You're going to struggle to sell this message, though, because like when I heard you talking about this, the idea that Wagner's out of control of the Russian MOD, I thought that I stopped and I thought that's really interesting, and I think he's right. But like, you have to be part of our community to be at that level. You have to have been like following the war really, really closely. Most of the YouTube audience, they're just like wonder weapons and you know, it's like, oh, take territory, and they don't understand these subtleties and complexities of what's going on, I think. So, but anyway, that's the problem, I guess.
Yeah,
you
right?
have to deal
Easier
with.
to see for them if he was like looking very closely.
Yeah, because I have it on full screen, but you know, it's interesting that that's the same thing I was telling the real reporter. Like, I said, do you know how big, how meaningful that stupid city is now? Do you understand that if Russia loses that, it's going to look really bad over here? Like I mean, say we are people, but like the Russians live off of this. Like, they're really tied to it. If something goes bad, they're fucking on it. I don't know how they get their news because we don't even have a television here. We do hear the Ministry of Defense on the radio every day, but if that city falls, it's like the whole war turns back. It turns a 180, because the whole story of the whole war has been Bakhmut. What other craziness has there been? Like, that's the one in everybody's mind. If Russia loses, holy crap.
Which is why Russia was like holding back the ammunition, right? They don't want to let Wagner to conquer the freaking city, because if they conquer it, they're gonna leave, and then it becomes a problem that you cannot solve. You cannot redraw from it. You cannot hold.
I think the Russian MOD is really concerned about getting into a war that weakens them. In other words, I think that they want to fight this war using only as much ammunition and manpower as they can replace on an ongoing basis. Maybe. I think they have got like a baseline level of military readiness for a serious war, right? I think that that's their number one aim, is to make sure that Russia doesn't become weakened. And so what that means is they've got this like artificial budget. They're not going to use their reserves. They're not going to use their reserves of missiles or ammunition or people, because they need to. That's like a war aim. We're going to stay ready, because it's a NATO war aim to weaken Russia, right? And so NATO win if Russia commit a huge amount of war materials. Because let's just say Russia do it. Let's just say Russia go in and they take Ukraine, and they do whatever is necessary, and they conquer all that territory. Well, then they are fighting a war of occupation in Ukraine, which has no economic benefit, and they might have seriously weakened their military. And then what? Then they fight a NATO that gears up to fight a real war. That's strategically a really bad position to be in. And so they might be perfectly prepared to sit there for as long as it takes, as long as they don't weaken their military. And so that's why I think the Russian MOD, and it was actually why, you saying that Wagner is out of control, this is what got me thinking along these lines, right? I think it's right. I think Wagner wanted to push on. Wagner wanted all the shells to be given to them. Wagner are like, we can take the territory, we can beat these guys. And it's like, yeah, you can. But what is the cost to the strategic position of Russia?
Not the game,
and if the MOD's aims are, we have to stay ready, we have to be in complete readiness. We can fight in Ukraine as long as we can replace everything we use there on an ongoing basis, right? And also, not only that, but on an ongoing basis without going into a war economy. We're not going to change our economy and sacrifice all of our civilian programs and our economic development as a nation so that Wagner can be heroes on the battlefield. So I think that this is the political aims of the Russian state. We're going to keep our economy developing. We're going to keep our social programs. We're going to keep our civilian war footing. We're not going to mobilize for a massive war, and we're not going to weaken our strategic reserve. So you can fight the war in Ukraine with what we can replenish on an ongoing basis, but that's all. And so that's like an artificial cap on the level of force they're prepared to allocate to the Ukrainian conflict. And that makes a lot of sense on a strategic level, but it doesn't lead to glorious victory where you take Kiev in 3 months.
No, because the glorious victory is not on the battlefield. The glorious victory is
right. Political.
When Russia becomes the leader of the world. When whole of Africa and Asia looks to Russia. That's the victory. And then then like the entire of Europe and United States got abandoned by the rest of the world. And then don't want to trade with them or whatever. Or they become like the standard of living drops like hell, economy crashes. That's the victory Russia wants. The battlefield, Russia already know they're gonna win the war. To them this war is just nothing. It's not really that big of a thing for them.
Yeah, they don't want Ukraine. They don't care. They don't want Ukraine. They're not trying to conquer Ukraine. Hey, Maddie.
Good morning.
Fellas, can you hear me?
Yep. We are not recording yet, just in case you are wondering.
Oh, okay. You're not recording. I'm sorry I'm late. I totally blew the time. It was my bad.
No,
I thought it was for some reason. Huh?
That's cool.
So
there it is. The Mark 6.9 freaking combat hair scratcher, back scratcher, multi-purpose.
It's multi-purpose.
Hey, Maddie, did you have any documents that you want to show up on the screen? If so, drop them in the chat in Telegram, and I'll organize them for you.
I put them on. I sent them directly to you. Did you see them?
No, hang on, I'll check.
Well, no, those were just videos I was going over. I just put them there in case we needed them. I kind of wrote everything down.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. No, the media file is more for like just pictures or documents. So, for example,
look at her head.
This would be Dan talking about he's got these slides that he can refer to, and so I can change those in the background as he talks about them.
Okay.
And then when we don't have them, it will probably go to like this, so the main speaker has the main screen.
I know I had a couple things.
That one might be better for the documents, just because.
Isn't it awesome, Mehdi? Look at this. You can just change things.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. StreamYard's groovy.
Yeah, that's right. I pay money for it because it's very good.
I don't get it. What?
He was saying about the layout.
The layout. Because normally we just have this, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, presentation layout. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But Dan and I were talking, it might be better, like, to have this when we have, like, one person, so that, the viewer can focus more on the person that's speaking. And then we might have this. But I think this is no good. I think, oh, no, not that one. What was this one? I think this one is much better for document presentation.
Yeah.
Do you think, Dan?
I agree.
I like that one. That one's better.
Yeah, I think this one's better. Yeah.
Because then I can go like this. If you see there, right there.
If Wakar is not appearing, Toby, you should be on screen.
Yeah, I haven't really prepared anything. I mean, I could.
You shaved, so it's okay.
Yeah, no, I shaved just in case because I didn't know how you wanted to do it. I'm happy to sit this one out and just sit in the background, but I can also do like an introduction because it might be a bit weird if you're reading my script. But I'm quite happy for you because the thing is, you should probably do the introduction and so on. But use your own words or whatever.
So what I usually do is just this. So what I usually do is I will introduce the. Hi everybody, this is Defense Politics Asia. Welcome to the DPA panel, and this panel is about stuff, and it's organized by Toby. So I'm gonna give it to Toby.
This is the thing. I can be just in the background. I was thinking maybe I can just be in the background, and then I can swap the images in and the formats. And it would look like magic, you know what I mean? I was hoping it might look a little bit more professional. So that way you guys can just do the chat. I'm not even really in it, but I can assist by doing the swapping of the images and
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff.
So the problem,
'Cause-
so usually you need a sponsor or organizer, because the sponsor organizer will shape the conversation.
Can you just say the sponsor is the DPA military panel? This is like in reality, like the sponsors are the people who talk, and it's like the group. I think like the military panel sponsored this one.
But you still
Yeah,
need a
well-
host. You still need someone to
Oh,
need
okay.
Well,
someone
that's
to
how we did it.
decide
That's
where
how we
to
did
talk.
it with the economics panel, but I don't know if that's the right way to go. I think maybe it should be Wyatt, because it's Wyatt's channel.
Yeah, I do not
And
know what's the
people who
question
are
to ask.
tuning in are going to be tuning in because it's Wyatt's channel. They don't really want to see me or Coping talk.
Oh,
You
so
know what I mean?
which is why I
I
participate
think it's a
in the
bit redundant.
so that's why I participate in the panel discussions. But the thing is, I wouldn't know what was planned. I wouldn't know what is the agenda. Which is why, you know, if you look at different panels, they have different sponsors. They are all the conversation is being managed differently because different people manage it differently. Like Aki will have his own style, which is very academic, and you have Coping, then you have still got who else? Yeah, they all have different ways of managing the conversation. I'm always just going along with the ride. So unless I'm the one who is organizing, then I know what question I'm going to ask. But now I wouldn't know what question to ask, where this conversation
The
goes.
reason that I shaved and put on a shirt is in case you want me to
Yes,
actually be the
I
sponsor
prefer.
and ask the questions, which I can do. You know.
Yes, I prefer.
And also, that might make more sense also because Wyatt, you're actually one of the speakers here. Like I'm asking you specific questions about the information war, right? So it might be a bit weird if you're also the sponsor, because then you have to ask yourself the questions, which might sound weird.
Because if you look
But I will probably fade myself out while people are talking. You know what I mean? Because I can still hear you. I can still put the images up.
Yeah. No, you can still put it up even when you're on screen. So it's not a big issue because you are just asking the question. The rest will be answering. Then you will be free to do other things. So that's what I do during the open mic. No, I'm always busy at the background, actually. So you can see my head always turning because I'm always managing the stuff. Yeah. So because if I have to manage, then I will not concentrate on the conversation because I will be like busy
all right,
with other stuff. Because it doesn't matter. Like for example, if you look at the earlier panels, Aki was the sponsor, but Aki wasn't actually the expert in those domains. He just asked very good questions. Coping did the same thing. He don't know anything about specific things. He just organized a panel. He have the question and he just asked. And then it is the panelist that is actually doing the answering and going deeper and stuff. So being on screen, I don't think is a problem. I think it's okay.
Also, Mehdi, just so you know, I think there is an option where if you record your video and audio locally, then you can upload that later to Wyatt because he does post-production to put it all together. And the thing about doing your recording on your computer locally is the audio and the video will be perfect. So we don't have to use the audio and the video that we record here if there are connection problems. So that's a useful thing that StreamYard has. But this is the other thing, Wyatt, about like I'm really hesitant to like make a lot of work for you. It's not just the time in the panels, but it's also the editing and the rest of it. For $3, that's like a bad way.
Which is why the panel is really like a hobby thing, I would say. It's not supposed to be like a massive commitment. Like I don't want people to work for me for free. So it's just a matter of like, I have this platform. If you really want to organize something, talk about something, and then hopefully share your opinion to a wider audience, then I have the platform for it. Which is why panels are posted on the main channel where I have the most subscribers. And if I put it only on the open mic channel, it's not going to get past 2,000 views because the channel is a bit small. Let me see. So at least if I put it on the main channel, at least we can get 10,000. It's still not a lot because most of the subscribers are just war fans. They just want to look at Ukraine war. And then when I post the Niger conflict, I only get like 15,000. So that's at least not too bad because a lot of people is wondering about Niger, but Niger, right? Niger. Later I will say Niger.
I was so happy when I was watching that video. Just waiting for you to slip and just put a hard R.
We had it in voice chat. We had the Italian guy Andrew, and he was talking about the people from Nigeria and the people from Niger, and he was looking for the word, but he knew he couldn't say it. And then we had Slef there as well, saying, "Just say it, man, just say it."
Yeah. So
Because it's just a word in Italian. It just means black.
Yeah, in Russian, they use like sounds like nigger, something like that. Like that's the literal word.
Yeah. There's no meaning in it except like
the
we might
reality,
say African American.
because the reality is this word is only a bad word in United States. It's a United States thing. It's not a global thing. Just like Ching Chong is not really a thing. If you go to Asia, you say, "Hey, Ching Chong, Ching Chong," nobody will give a damn. It's like, oh, crazy guy.
This guy's trying to Ching Chong. I haven't heard of that in so long.
Have you seen those YouTube videos where a guy dresses up in like stereotypical Mexican dress, and then he goes to the university and he asks all the Americans, "Does this offend you?" And they're all like, "Oh yeah, this is cultural appropriation. It's really offensive, And then he goes to ask Mexicans, and they're like, "Hey, no, it's cool, man. Yeah, nice clothes."
Exactly.
And it's like, "Does this offend you?" And they're like, "No. Why would that offend me?
Yeah,
it's cool.
people
I
are
wouldn't
happy,
dress like that, but if you want to dress like that, that's cool.
Yeah,
like,
people is happy that
Mexican stuff
embrace
is
their
cool.
culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Like if I see some Russian girl doing a video and she dresses up in what she thinks is Australian clothes, I don't care. I think that's cute. It's like, go for it. You're a Russian in Australia and you're trying to dress up and have fun. How
What
is
is
that
Australian
offensive?
clothes?
Yeah, I don't know. Like a cork hat and like no shirt, big muscles.
that's why it's so
It's very manly, Dan.
Did I
Or it used
tell
to
you? Did you all know even for non-Cantonese speaker, that's how we think of Cantonese speakers. We think that the way they talk is just ching chong ching chong. That's because in United States, most of the Chinese there are Cantonese. They are all from Guangzhou and Hong Kong, so they usually only speak Cantonese. Because in the earlier days, there's no such thing as Mandarin. We don't speak Mandarin. Chinese people all have their own dialects. Mandarin is a North China thing. It's like a Wuhan and a further north kind of language. It was chosen because it was neutral. Like it's not part of the major dialects. So it helps to unite the country in one common dialect that everybody speaks. But it like in my part of the world is more Hokkien, Teochew, and there are some Cantonese. So it's all very different language. It's like Italian, French, Spanish, German. It's quite different. So when we hear Cantonese, we always think like ching chong, ching chong, ching chong, because that's how they sound like. That's I can speak a bit of Cantonese, so I know how it
What
sounds
are your
like.
languages? What languages do you speak?
I speak Chinese, English. I can speak Malay. I can speak Hokkien. Not very good. And I can speak very little bit of Cantonese, because I was my guardian when I was kindergarten was Cantonese, so I can speak a little bit.
What is Hokkien?
Hokkien is
What is
Fujian. It's a Fujian province dialect.
Okay.
So
is it very different to Chinese?
Yeah, quite different.
Okay.
So for example, Cantonese actually is from Canton. Canton is actually the other name for Guangzhou. So in Chinese we also call that place Guangdong. So that's why we say it's Guangdonghua, which is Cantonese so that is like a Spanish. Then you have not Spanish. I put it out. Maybe that's like Italian. Then you have Hokkien and Teochew is like Portuguese and Spanish. They are very, very similar. They understand each other, but it's different. So
Yeah, we say Portuguese is lazy Spanish.
So for example,
Really?
have you eaten? In Cantonese is lei sik bo fan mei. Have you eaten rice? Then in Hokkien is le jia ba bui.
Yeah, it sounds like lazy.
Le jia ba bui. Yeah, it's so ancient Chinese in the past, sometimes they can kind of understand each other. So it's like the Spanish and the Spanish Portuguese, they can kind of understand each other. So they still talk, but they talk in their own language and then they try to understand each other. So
like when we say tienes hambre, it means are you hungry? In like Portuguese, like tienes fame. It's like lazy broken down Spanish to us, like hearing it. Fala, habla. It's like, come on, man, just say the word. You know it. It's like, you know the word, man.
So it's different. It's just very different dialect. I'm not very good with like my Hokkien is messed up with Teochew. I cannot differentiate the two very well. So I actually my Hokkien is very mixed. It's like a salad, between the two. It's like someone who cannot speak Spanish and Portuguese, so like he learned both, so he keep switching the language. That's how I speak my Hokkien.
Yeah, that's my German is like that because I learned it in German in Switzerland. So I was trying to learn the Swiss dialects at the same time as trying to learn the grammar rules of German. And so now people, if they hear me speak German, they're just like, they assume I'm a retard. They can't pick where I'm from, which I like because I copied the Swiss accent. So people can't pick that I'm a native English speaker. They just think I'm mentally retarded Swiss because I'm an adult and I have no grasp of grammar. And, it's like, oh, wow, this person's really slow.
So for like Cantonese, it's a totally different language from Hokkien and Hokkien and Teochew. Because Teochew is a subset of Hokkien. So, but Hokkien is actually the main group. Cantonese is just the next province to Hokkien, but it's an entirely different language. So it sounds very, very different. In fact, it's actually closer to Vietnamese. So sometimes when I hear Vietnamese, I feel like it's a bit like Cantonese, but I cannot understand because they used to be part of the similar type of people. They are called the Yue people. So the Yue in Vietnamese is Viet. Vietnam means Yunnan in Chinese, which is Viet South Yue. So Vietnam is the southern Yue, and then
So who are the northern Viet? Is that Guangzhou?
Yeah,
is that Hokkien?
it's Guangzhou.
Okay.
So that's why
does that mean Vietnamese is related to Hokkien?
So that's why Cantonese, in another name for Cantonese, is called Yue, which is the Yue language. So that's why it's very interesting where it's like there used to be a kingdom called Yue, and the northern part of Vietnam is actually part of this empire or this kingdom. It was then conquered or annexed by the Han Dynasty. So, but the thing is, in Chinese history, usually the southern states, the ones in the coastal, they are all considered like the Ukraine, like nobody give a damn about them. They are not important, and they are all hidden away by a series of mountains. And it's tropical, it's hot, and it's very uncomfortable. So they don't come down. The northerners, the mainlanders, the Han people, they are always fighting in the central plains, in the river systems. They don't come down to the south because it's very hard to fight in the tropical jungles. So that's why the language and everything kind of survive very well in the south. That's why the Cantonese continue to have Cantonese there. And then the Hokkien people, the Fujian people, they are called the Min people. And then so if you go to Taiwan, they also call the Hokkien, because they speak Hokkien in Taiwanese, but they also call it Taiyu, which is Taiwanese. They call it Taiwanese. It's actually also, another name for it is called Minnanhua, which is actually Southern Min language. So which is why Min and Yue, and at one point of history, in China history, Min and Yue become one kingdom. It's called the Minyue Empire or Minyue Kingdom, something like that. So it's a very interesting thing.
Is it true? Tell me if this is true. I heard this theory that the reason that so many Cantonese people went to America to work and build the railways and so on, and the reason that all the Chinese influx into America, but also Australian goldfields and other places, was because the Han were actually doing ethnic cleansing and they were pushing the Cantonese out of China.
I don't think so. It's more like the only way to get out of China is through Hong Kong. you're not allowed to go overseas to be in the olden Chinese Empire.
Okay.
But Hong Kong was colonized, right? So that's the only way out of China. There is no, so anyone who sail away from China, they are literally refugees. They are just running away. So so like all the Chinese people in Southeast Asia, they are all refugees in the past. They are just running away, one batch by another batch.
I heard this theory from the Vietnamese when I was in Vietnam in Hanoi. They schooled me on the wickedness of the Han, and they said that China was a myth. China was the Han people ethnically cleansing all of the other nations within China, the Ming and the Hui and the Cantonese. And they said that is why, if you go to Chinatown in Melbourne or in San Francisco or in LA, it's pure Cantonese culture, because they were being ethnically cleansed and pushed out of China, and they had to flee to the West.
But the truth is, you have to look at the time when they gone to United States. It's actually in the cowboy period, in the late 1800s, 1900s, right? It's called 1800, late 1800s. So those were the time where the Qing Dynasty was dying. So these people who go to dig in the gold mines and everything, they all have the ponytails. That's why they call them pigs. Which is pigtail. We also call them pigtail. So the pigtail guys, no one would dare to cut off the pigtail, because in the Chinese Empire period, especially during the Qing Dynasty, the idea is that all Chinese people around the world belongs to China, which is Qing Dynasty. There's no such thing as China in those days. China is just a Western term for that place. So it all belongs to Qing people. They are all Qing people. So if no one can cut, because the moment you cut your hair, your pigtail, it means that you are rebelling against the Qing Empire. Then they will kill you, regardless where are you around the world. So that's the concept. So which is why even though that they travel to China, they don't cut their pigtail. Only the smart ones will cut, because they realize that the Qing is not going to come here. So that was the period. So when the people who rebelling against the Qing, what the first thing they do is they cut their hair. They become the Western style hairstyle, that kind of thing.
But were the Qing Han?
No, Qing is Manchu.
Okay.
The most powerful Chinese empires are all foreigners.
So when did the
only the Han Dynasty was the time where the Chinese is powerful on their own, the Han people. The most powerful was the Mongols. We started the Yuan Dynasty, but then you have the Qing Dynasty. Qing Dynasty is actually Manchurian. So Manchurian, in Chinese mentality, they are barbarians. They are just like the Mongolians, they are barbarians. Although these barbarians are just all stronger and better than them. And there is also this. Also, I was watching this Chinese channel, who kind of like breaks down a lot of conspiracy, and it's like he say things very realist, and I'm not sure if there's alternate history or real history. He talks a lot about Chinese history and all this kind of thing, even including the Tsar and the Russian history, the Mongolians, and he says that the first emperor of China is actually more Mongolian than Chinese, because the whole concept of the emperor, the son of heaven, the way how they address themselves, like the emperor don't call themselves, in Chinese we call me war, or war is me. So but in emperors will never say war. Emperor will say zhen. They will always and he traced back that Jin is a Mongolian kind of word. And it's like they realized that it's actually the Mongolians migrated south and then they conquered the central plains and this kind of thing. Which is like, so he's a Chinese, and he always wear a mask. He don't show his face, but he always putting down the Chinese people. He's saying that actually the Mongols are the real most powerful people. We are just sheep.
Mongolians don't like Chinese people.
Yeah, they got humiliated to be under the Chinese, because he was so this guy, he was explaining that throughout the millennia, the Mongols, or the Mongolian type of people, the people who's living in the steppes, are the people who are so-called superior, and they feel that these people who are farming, these are people just for them to farm as well. They just go there to pillage them and take their stuff and control them. These are all weaklings, and which is true. The Chinese are always getting raided, which is why they built the Great Wall of China, because they can't fight the Mongolians. So
why? I was gonna say, it was like, wasn't it the Mongols who first made contact with the Chinese by initiating, trying to break through that point in the wall? And that's where it started. That's how the Mongols actually invaded China. It wasn't the other way around, right?
The Mongols has always been invading China, like all the while. Like throughout history, the barbarians in the north, so-called barbarians, they are always raiding the Chinese people. But so this is not a. It is, to them, they don't want to settle down. They like the horses. They like to travel around. The pride of this so-called barbarians, all these steppe people, are very different. They have very big pride, and they're very strong. The problem is that when they reach our age now, there's no way they can fight, because the world have changed. If we are still in the medieval era, we're still using swords and arrows. All these barbarians are still very strong. But now, when we are using guns and tanks, they can no longer become as strong as they used to be. They lost that. So this guy was saying, this YouTuber was saying that, even during the early days, during the World War I and early almost World War II period, no one cares about the Han people. All the negotiations is between the royalties, the real royalties in Mongolia, of the Manchurian, and it's not just the Manchu, but also the former royalties from all these former Mongol empire. Because Mongol empire broke down, and then they still have a lot of royalties all over the place, and the negotiations is all about between all these people. They don't really care about the Han people, the Chinese people. They are all not important. They are just land to be taken. That's all. People to be controlled. And that's why the negotiation is always between all these people, all this royalty, with the Soviets, and in the end, somehow the world today turned out that all these people become irrelevant. In the earlier days, in World War I, World War II period, they are very, very powerful. They still make deals with the Soviets. The Soviets give them weapons, which is why the Soviets came into Mongolia and helped the Mongols and everything. And Mongolia was very loyal
1923, I think. 1923, 1920s.
Yeah. And it was because even in those days, because the Qing Empire was still around, all these royal bloods from the Mongol strains are still very strong. All these royalties all is still very, very powerful. Just that, of course, the Japanese are also trying to stir shit. They try to use the Manchu as a puppet. And the Mongols, they are also royal blood. They have their own royal family and stuff. That they make the deals, which is why they, because of the help, the Mongolians are very loyal to the Russians. Like, it's kind of crazy, because if you look at the Mongolians' position, it's actually very bad, and it's like, they still went all out to support the Soviet war effort, which is why the Soviet Union make it a point they will protect the Mongolians. They gave everything, they gave everything they have to the Soviets to fight against the Nazis.
Have you seen the memorial there? I've shown a memorial in Mongolia that is the most insane memorial.
I saw
it's like
that
a mosaic. The Mongolians fly the Russian flag like I've never seen. I think I've seen the Russian flag more in Mongolia than here in my town. Like, those motherfuckers are still about it. So yeah.
It's really interesting.
Because do you know why? Because the Tsar is all Mongolian lineage. The Mongols, after they conquered westward, then after they start to break up into different hordes, because the king was the ultimate Khan was Genghis Khan, right? Then he had a lot of sons, so all the different sons started their own controls different parts of the world. And
that's right. Nevsky, even like the great Russian Nevsky, he went to Mongolia to pay homage to his leader, who was the great Khan. Nevsky was the Khan's guy. So yeah, that's right. He was, so to a large extent, the Russian lineage is it's a Mongolian deal. So it's kind of interesting.
The most powerful of those days, was this guy.
I didn't know that.
Let me find. What's the name?
the Mongols really liked Nevsky because he actually bothered to get on his horse and go 2,000 kilometers to pay homage every year, like he was, or every 5 years, like he was supposed to. A lot of leaders didn't. And that was one of the reasons that and see, the Mongolians didn't tell people what god they had to worship or whatever. As long as you sent the soldiers to the imperial war, as long as you went and said hello to the Khan and showed fealty, they let you run your society like you like. And that's why they supported Nevsky, and that's why Nevsky and the Russians were well liked in Mongolia, because he paid respect to the great Khan.
And that's why also the Mongols are able to control such a large territory. Basically, they just let you be. So they just say that they just want you for war, and that's it. Basically, that's exactly
Don't
what
make war against them, make war with them, and if you do that,
then that's exactly what the Russian Federation is today. It's still the same system.
Very much.
It's exactly the same system as the
190
Mongols.
ethnicities inside the Russian Federation. And I think this is a really important point too, because there's nothing wrong with being a Ukrainian Russian. You know, just like there's nothing wrong with being a Tatar Russian, and there's nothing wrong with being, you know, a Mongolian Russian or any other kind of Russian. Russia has 190 different ethnicities, and they're all happy to be Russian, you know.
And
so that's a very interesting point. That's a very Mongol way of running a federation.
And so and then this YouTuber he says that the most powerful of all of the descendants is this person called the Batu Khan. His name is Batu. Batu Khan is a leader of the Golden Horde, the one that attacked all the way into Europe. So he conquered the Kievan Rus, and then he established the new Russian Empire. So he's like the father of the Russian Empire, the Tsars and everything. He's all under this guy. And this guy is very interesting because he's the most powerful and most influential of all the entire Mongol family, royal family, but he never wants to be the Khan. He never wants to be the leader of all Mongols. But he's the kingmaker. He's like the most powerful one. And everybody will have to go and pay respect to him. So this YouTuber guy, this Chinese YouTuber guy, he breaks down the history of that. Wow, my mind is blown, because you will never read this history in this way, because nobody gives a damn about the Mongols. They always put them into some barbarians. But actually, the way how they put it is like he makes it that Mongols are actually the center of the world, and then the Chinese is actually at the side. Whereas the Chinese think that they are in the center of the world, but they are not. Like they are just there, you know, or these people just to be harvested for money and for grains and everything.
Yeah, dude, the mosaic, it tells you even before, it's a mosaic that starts even before World War II, and it goes around telling the history between the Mongols and the Soviets. And what I find very interesting is that, like, you get to see weapons, you get to see horses, because the Mongolians gave so much meat and horse, and like they're all there. And the defeat of the Japanese is also depicted on this. You can clearly see which ones are Mongols and which ones are Soviets, but in certain parts of the mosaic they mix them together because, as you know, parts of Russia also have ethnic, like, Mongolian descendants. So you see Mongolians with like colored eyes and stuff, and it's all depicted on the mosaic. It's weird. You get like goosebumps as you're looking around it, because it's like a mixture of cultures. And by the end of the mosaic, you have the Yuri, the astronaut, the cosmic guy, which is basically a symbol of the USSR and everything that it was like whatever. And you have the Mongolians and the Russians. You have like little blonde people, but also Mongolians, and you rarely see an embracement of such cultures. Like, some people who are so European, you'll never see them in mixed like this. And that's something that captivated me, because when I was growing up in Los Angeles, you rarely saw like mosaics or paintings with brown people, even though I'm like light-skinned Mexican. But it's like, what the hell? Why's everybody gotta be white? This thing's pretty damn old, and this thing was already inclusive. So like, this thing's all politically correct for its age. But yeah, this is one of my favorite pictures, because you also don't see a lot of swastikas used in this manner. In Mongolia, there's a lot of swastikas, but like the religious type. I also have one where in Mongolia, you see swastikas on paintings, really, really big. Kind of looks like Germany, like Nazi Germany, but it's not. But this swastika is actually Nazi German, and of course, it's on the ground.
Because Buddhist swastika is different. It's not diamond shape, it's a square. It's like it's this a swastika is like this, right? The Buddhism swastika is sitting straight on the fruit. And then I think it's a different direction. It is anti-clockwise. So the Nazi one is clockwise direction. The arrows points clockwise. Yeah. So do you know that the China Republic of China or People's Republic of China, both Chinas actually claims the whole of Mongolia as well. Because that's where the Qing Dynasty used to control. They used to own the whole of Mongolia. So they don't dare to do it because they have the Russians backing. So, and why they have Mongolia is also because Qing is barbarian. So called barbarian, they are part. So the steppes is part of their empire. So which is why that part is part of the Qing Empire. It's not a normal thing for the Chinese empires to want all this desert, because Qing Dynasty was the steppe people, and then to them it's just normal to conquer all these places. And then after that, the Han-led China wanted to conquer all this land, and then it's like the Soviets like no, this is not your land. Yeah, so that's why the Mongolians are they really love the Russians, because they are the one that guarantees their freedom and everything.
Yeah, when you cross the border, you'll see something so interesting. Like the Mongolian border guards will salute the Russian train. They do like an insane salute as the train is pulling up. They'll stand at attention and salute the train because it has the Russian flag. But on the other way around, if you're on a Mongolian train going into Russia, they do something else, but the Mongolians have insane respect. As the Russian train is coming in, they stand at attention and salute until the train comes to a complete stop, and then they board the train. And there's also the Mongolian military will also speak to you like in Russian, which is also really interesting, because I know you're at the border, but they don't actually have to do that, because the Mongolians coming into Russia, nobody's speaking freaking Mongolian. And another thing is the ethnic Buryat people of Russia, their language, when they go to Mongolia, the Mongolians can understand them 100%. But what's crazy is that the Russian Mongols can't understand the Mongolians from Mongolia. Like the Buryats can't understand anything the Mongolians say, but the Mongolians, through their freaking culture, I guess, and their literature and their language, they understand everything. It's weird.
I wish I had known this when I was studying the Russian war against the Japanese in Mongolia, because I never understood how the Russians were able to have such great supply lines and such good local intelligence. I mean, they wiped the map with the Japanese, but now it all makes sense, right? The people were behind them. The people were supporting them. They were fighting in their own land.
Yeah, the Mongols are all the way 100% behind the Soviets. The kind of loyalty you cannot find anywhere. So it's very interesting. So that's why I say, when I saw the Chinese YouTuber, I was thinking maybe it is all this heritage that it was never written in our books. We do not, in the West, we don't have all this. They don't know enough of all this history. That's why we don't understand the links.
Yeah, my mind is going at the moment. Like, so much more makes sense. I never thought about it like this. Like, I knew Nevsky had gone to the Great Khan, but I never thought about the ties between Mongolia and Russia like this.
So because if you link everything up together, imagine the Manchu royalties, the Mongol royalties, the Khan, and all these things, they are all part of the same royal dynasty. And it's just that the name of the empire have changed, but they are all part of the same bloodlines, the same heritage. Then you start to realize that why they are all working together. They are always together. The Manchus are okay with the Mongols, they are okay with the Russians, and then when the Qing got overthrown, then the Mongols returned. Basically, they returned.
So how do the Uyghurs fit into this? Like, how do the Mongols and the Uyghurs get along? Because they're just people. They share a border.
They're just people.
Okay, so they're not.
So
The
the
Uyghurs
story,
aren't
so
close
according
to
to
the
this Chinese
Mongols.
YouTuber, the story was that the the Communist Party, the Liberation Army did not want to go to Xinjiang. That was not part of the plan. They are ordered by the Soviets to conquer Xinjiang. So the Soviets gave them the permission to go and take Xinjiang, and because the Soviets don't want to go in, and there's some stories. I forgot the story what he said, but it's like something to do with like if they kind of threatened them into doing it because Soviet is very big. The Soviet Union is very big. They don't really need this. They just want their henchmen to control it. And I think Tibet I'm not too sure, but Xinjiang is part of Soviet land, in that sense, because it's part of the Soviet umbrella. You know, the Kazakhstans and everything, they're all under the Soviets. So it's like they told the Communist Party to go and capture the place and control it, which is why, you know, it's a big betrayal, you know, when the Chinese Communist Party after that, you know, turned against the Soviet Union. So which is why, you know, I said Russia and China will never be real friends, because the history is they are never friends. The based on this YouTuber, his explanation of the history is that all these steppe people, including the Russian Tsar and everything, they forever looks down on the Chinese because they feel that these are all second class citizens. These are all like lousier ethnic groups. The real royalties are the steppe people, the Mongols and everything, which is why, you know,
that goes back to 2000 BC, and you know, this is as old as
they are at war for the entire history, and so, you know, the Chinese like to say, you know, these are, you know, our historic land, you know, that kind of thing. But to the Mongols, to the steppe people, China is the historic land of the steppe people. The steppe people owns this place. Even so, that's why even like I mentioned about the emperor comes from the emperors. The words that they use come from some kind of Mongolian sort of language, which means that they actually conquered this place before already. It's just a matter of, like, you know, you are too much trouble, so I don't want you. You know, you can live and die on your own. Then when they feel like it, you know, okay, it's time to, you know, take back and come back and reclaim our ancestral lands. To them, that's what it is to them. You know, these are just ancestral lands. They just that for now, you know, you are too much trouble. We don't want you. We just, you know, ride our horse and have fun. There is the mentality.
It's like the Vikings.
Yeah, you cannot, you would not be able to understand, because the Chinese always have. If you notice, Chinese have this bad habit. The Chinese have this bad habit of being the victims, because throughout history they are the victims. They are always getting raided and destroyed and pillaged and killed, because that's what the Mongols do to them. The steppe people do to them, because it's like oh, hey, we have not enough grain. Let's go and take some grain from our warehouse. Then they just rush into China and then grab the grain. And you want a wife? Let's grab some woman, you know, and then ride off. That's what they do to the Chinese. So Han Dynasty is very interesting, because the most powerful, most famous emperor of the Han, who actually, you know, consolidated power to himself, he made it a point to defeat the Xiongnu. Xiongnu was the Mongols of the time. So they actually secretly collect Mongol horses, because Mongol horses is different. They have shorter legs, so they can ride longer. So they collect all these horses, and then they have this like multi-decade preparation under this emperor. After that, they went to fight back the Xiongnu, and they fight all the way to Lake Baikal. The Chinese, they raid all the way.
Massive campaign.
And then they burn down the entire city, the capital city of this Xiongnu, which is where, you know, maybe around where Dan is living. They burn down the whole place because it's all desert, so they have to ride non-stop all the way through the desert and the plains, until they actually reach greenery, and then they can burn down the whole place and they can shock the whole Xiongnu. In the end, Xiongnu they lost the war after the multiple decade. But then this emperor also is too womanizing, and then he refused to step down for his son, and then the son got supposedly revolt against the emperor, but it was a trap. So what happens is that it was politics. And then after the crown prince killed himself in the field after the field thing, because he don't talk to his father much, so they don't understand each other very much. He killed himself. Then after that, this super powerful emperor left with only one baby son when he died. So in the end, he went. So Han Dynasty went from the super powerful emperor directly into this baby emperor, which they have another region to control the empire, and that's when the empire started to go downhill very quickly, and then resulted in the Three Kingdoms story.
Yeah, have you heard the theory that that war against the Xiongnu, it pushed them westward, and there is a theory that this is what precipitated the fall of the Roman Empire, because the Xiongnu being pushed westward pushed the Scythians into Eastern Europe, which pushed all the Goths. And you know how all the Goths migrated down through France and became the Vandals in North Africa? So there is this theory. It's really interesting that war was so great that it created this massive westward shift of people that ended up destroying the Roman Empire, leading to the sack of Rome.
But this war also destroys the Han Dynasty. It's not just the royal lineage got broken because of messed up because he wasn't really procreating or caring about succession. But also the entire empire was drained because he just keep going to war. Even at his old age, he's still going to war. He's still fighting. So the entire treasury was empty. So the Han Dynasty at the end when he died, they actually have maybe a lot of debts or something. No, they don't have a lot of money. But they totally destroyed the Xiongnu. The Xiongnu was messed up. They actually I think it was also during the Han Dynasty that it was then that they sent the envoys to go all the way to the west to try to draw on the map what are the other empires are there, and I think they might actually have one of the campaign to fight to the west, because they met friendly tribes, and then they've met very unfriendly tribes, and then the unfriendly one actually imprisoned the envoy for many years, something like this. Then after that, I think the Han army was sent to destroy them, the crazy people. But that is where, because the Han Empire is so, during this campaign and everything under this emperor was so great that they call themselves the Han people. The Chinese people call themselves the Han people. It's from this dynasty. The dynasty before that was the Qing Dynasty, which is the first emperor of China. So before that, it was just warring states. It's just like Royal Rumble. So Han is considered the first major dynasty. So which is why the Chinese people call themselves the Han. But largely Han is just mainly the Central Plains, and then they conquer outwards. So they conquered the Cantonese people, the Fujian people, because they go all the way to the coast. They conquered northern Vietnam, and then they go down the Silk Road. But there was no Silk Road at those days. They just basically conquer the tribes and everything. So yeah, those were the days. But the Chinese history is just very sad. It's just a lot of people dying. It's just it's just wars after wars after war. Which is why Chinese so that's why, right, Chinese have this DNA of saving, because we are always in calamity. We are always in disasters. So that's why the Chinese people like to save money. This is why it's in our DNA, because of all this history, because Chinese people are always dying. They are always killing and dying and suffering and getting bullied and everything. So it's our natural instinct to save. Yeah, that's a Chinese thing.
I gotta tell you, this is. I hope you're recording this, because I
am actually.
That was great.
Oh, really?
I'm learning, and I would love to see a panel, and just because, Toby, the Russian-Japanese War is something I've never even thought of looking into. It's always just been, because it's always been shoveled off on. I'm just learning the Eastern Front basically anew, and now that war, because now I think about like the Flying Tigers. Was there any point where the Flying Tigers were actually supporting Russian forces? You know what I mean? I don't know, but that's cool that you're bringing it up. So I'm just want to keep talking. I want to hear.
Well, that's the origins of a lot of armored warfare doctrine. was the Russian war against the Chinese in Mongolia. It's a really interesting campaign, but it makes like infinitely more sense when I understand that the Russian army was welcome there and that they had local support, because this is a wilderness, and how they were able to get local intelligence, and there were a lot of auxiliary forces from the Mongolians that fought with the Russians as well.
It was hand in hand, Toby. Like the Russian fight against the Japanese, it was like, this is the Russians and this is the Soviets, these are the Mongolians, and it was like right and left. That entire conflict, like the belligerents were the Soviets and the Mongolians versus the Japanese Empire, 100%. And you get to see that. Man, I wish everybody could see that fucking memorial. It's awesome.
You know, in the States right now, that memorial would probably have been torn down for some offense. You know what I mean? And it's this is the thing that disgusts me right now about my country, is that we're ashamed even of our own history right now. You know, because we're always focused on everything we fucking have done negative in this world, is how we're presented and how we teach our kids about, you know, reparations, things like that. Not to get into the subject, but that's what's taught. It's not the actual history of some of the stuff that we did that was good. It's all the shit we should be ashamed about. Where in Russia, they're, you know, and it seems like in other countries, they're teaching kids their history. It's
very cowardly. It's very cowardly to attack the past, because those people are dead and they can't speak back. You know.
Right. True. It just blows my mind. We don't even focus on it in the United States, where I think in other countries and cultures, it's, you know, as much as we talk about it, we're not into it as patriotic as we really think we are, or we know our history better, and we don't. It's just kind of, it drives me nuts. Sorry.
Do you know how China turned communist? It's because the Americans went to help the Chinese. There's the reason. The Soviets was actually helping Republic of China, the Taiwan today, that China, the democratic China. So the Soviets were actually supporting them and then actually giving them arms and helping them to fight against the Japanese. And then the Chinese, this Republic of China. So the communist Chinese are very small. During those days, it's very, very tiny. It's just one of those, one of the warlords that, no, they don't really care that much. The ROC is the big one. It's the main one. Then after that, they decided to take support from the Americans. This is where you have the tigers, you know, and everything, the flying tigers and bullshit, you know. And then the Soviets got pissed. The Soviets like, whoa, you changed your big brother. No, we are your big brother.
Laugh at me about the flying tigers, but see, that's all we know about anything that happened there. That's the only thing that I can think of that connects an American to it, and that's why we just don't know nothing about it, because we're so insulated. You know, we don't even know why they were really there in the first place. I just knew they were there, right?
So imagine, right?
I'm sorry, I don't need to.
Yeah, so imagine the geopolitical war. Halfway through World War II, they already know that the Axis power is going to be doomed. It's going to lose. And the Soviet Union is already plotting their wider aims post-war. The Americans are doing the same thing, which is why they went to aid the Chinese and asked them to come to their side. And the Soviets got betrayed. And they said, how dare you? So they decided to talk to the communist Chinese and actually provide them with weaponries. And this is why, you know,
makes a lot of sense.
The communist Chinese have no chance. The reality is that they have no chance to win against the Republic of China. The Republic of China, the nationalists are very, very powerful during those days. But then because of the betrayal against the Soviets, so the Soviets provided all the support instead to the communists. And the communists, they have this agreement with the nationalists. They say that, okay, we shall fight the Japanese together. But the thing is, the nationalist stronghold is all along the coast. End up, they are doing the most of the fighting. The communists are just hiding. They're just accumulating all the military, getting more soldiers, training. Then the Soviets keep feeding them weapons and tanks and everything. So by the time the Japanese are defeated, the communists go to war. And then they just swept through the nationalists, because the nationalists cannot. They cannot handle because they are already fatigued from the war against the Japanese, and then the communists are supported by the Soviets, which then the Americans left them to die. The Americans didn't do much, right? They just left. They said, "Oh, this is not our problem. This is civil war." They just let them to die. Then, so
there's a lot of curious incidents. Like if you
Good
look
lesson
up,
for the Ukrainians there.
if you look up photos of Americans and Russians together today, you'll find that they fought together in Syria. But like in the past, these enemies, these so-called enemies, like the Soviets and the Americans, there's pictures of them together taking parts of Germany. There's pictures of them celebrating the defeat of the Japanese. Like, it blows my mind that today we could be so much in conflict. We know we have different geopolitical ideas. Everybody knows this. We all know we want different things, but in the end, we end up fighting the same major enemy. Like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Like, that's been happening with the Soviets and the Americans throughout history. It's strange that we keep doing this over and over again, when in the end we're probably going to be allies against the biggest threat in the near future. It just ends up being this way. It's annoying, man. I hate this damn loop.
This is why I wanted to, through DPA, I wanted to teach people about geopolitics, to understand the real world is very realistic. There's no ethics and morals about it. Now, see all these pro-Russian people, very happy and supporting about China. The one day they will hate China. I can tell you 100% they will hate China.
They don't fucking trust. Why, bro? Let me tell you how much these fucking people dislike and don't trust. Like, they know that the Chinese are gonna backstab them. Every fucking Russian knows.
Yeah.
Every Russian knows. When you're talking about like how much Russians hold the Mongolians to high regards. Like, they know these motherfuckers they will die for them. Like, the Mongolian is like literally the greatest.
Literally die for them, actually.
But those fucking Chinese, but that's how they say, but those fucking Chinese, one of these days, because on the Far East, they're already going to take our cities. There's more Chinese people in these fucking cities. Like, they're like, we're losing control. If you look at the Chinese border with Russia, there's certain towns where the Chinese just come and migrate over because things are cheaper. Their life is better. And it's basically like China is doing in the Far East what Mexicans have done in California, Texas. Like, that's what it's looked like. And now let's not even get into politics, because when the politics comes, bro, you already know the Chinese are going to be worried about the Chinese. It seems like what you said about that long hair thing, they wouldn't cut it off because they're like, it seems like China's gone back to that age in a way, like economically and politically. They're Chinese people, wherever they go, they're still loyal.
That's what they're doing now, actually. So like, they have all these secret police and everything that's going all around the world to police their own nationals. So it came out in I don't know if it came out in the news or something. So they have the police going over to like United States of Australia, and actually police or arrest their own people for whatever reason. So
yeah, that was a big deal in Australia. Like, I don't think the Chinese understood how badly that was received in Australia. The idea that the Chinese Chinese police would come to Australia and start telling Chinese people in Australia how they had to behave, this caused huge anti-Chinese sentiment.
Did it happen in America? Because
Yes.
I swear to God.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm not, bro, because I just remembered, I was like, this is fake. Like, I only heard, I was like, there's no fucking way. So that's real?
Real.
Could you fucking imagine, dude? Oh my God.
And even to the point where the Chinese in Australia, when the Australian police and security apparatus said, listen, you can't do that. You can't come in here and apply your law here. The Chinese were like, why not? They're our people. What are you talking about? It's like they didn't understand.
There's a big new idea, you see?
They thought, these are our people, therefore they are subject to our laws, and you'll be cool with that, right?
It's a pigtail thing.
It was kind of interesting.
So China is also trying another thing that was not very successful, which was actually to make all overseas Chinese part of China, part of Chinese people. So they actually, if I'm not wrong, there is actually a special passport for overseas Chinese, like people like me, to actually for us to go into China and like be like a semi-citizen kind of thing. So this all part of the influence operation to try to conquer the world. So what Drew like to say, is there some beautiful, awesome country? Like, bullshit, man, I tell you, it's not true. They are fucking aggressive. It's just that you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's fucking, I tell you, as a Chinese, I can tell you, don't as a Chinese, I telling you, as a Chinese ethnic, I tell you, don't trust the Chinese.
I learned that shit from the Russians, matey. I don't need a Chinese motherfucker to tell me
Don't
to
trust the Chinese. You must understand the Sun Tzu Art of War is written by a Chinese.
Yeah, that's insane, bro. And another thing is, so we're next to Lake Baikal, and like the Chinese, the biggest store is like, yeah, the Chinese are trying to bottle up the fucking lake and sell it in water. Like the Chinese try to buy rights to bottle water here, and it turned into a big problem or something. That's the first thing I heard when I got to Russia. I was like, those fucking Chinese. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys talking about Chinese for, dude? It's crazy.
Because I heard from a different YouTube channel, they were talking about China having a water problem kind of thing. I think real life law or something like that. So it's like, okay, that's something I do not know. Because to me, like, China have a lot of water. They have all the major rivers. They should have a lot of water. But the thing is, if they go to take the water from Lake Baikal, I tell you, Lake Baikal will be dried in like 10 years. How many people is in China? There's so many people in China. Come on, it's not a practical solution.
Hey, Toby, have you looked into like the Opium Wars and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you know Wyatt knows, and I would love just to hear do it. I wish we could do just this, what we're doing right now, free for all, once a week, and maybe just bring in what's in your head, and we just talk about it, because I've never learned so much about the area from somebody before. Then, because I never knew who to ask, or I didn't even know about the different factions to ask about even. You know, now it seems like that part of China with the Mongols, it's like a mini Baltics in the way it's like all meshed, and it sometimes rubs against each other, and it doesn't always work out, but at least they're not like at each other's throats either at the moment. So I just want to throw it in here. What do you guys think about that? Like one day is a free
that's actually what I planned. I call it the lounge talk. The thing is that I never have the time to really dare to go and do it. But the thing is that I'm already recording this separately, outside of StreamYard. So I will just crop up this screen, and then I'll just put it as a lounge talk. And then the rest of the lounge members was like, what the since when did this happen?
Well, you know, like, I think one of the problems with the OM is there's so many people on it, and then in order to have a say, they have to talk over the top. Whereas when it's just 4 people like this, I don't know, it might be like a better discussion. It's better to take part, and it's probably better to watch too, you know?
Yeah, no worries. I'll kind of, because it started off with me talking with Toby, but a lot of the infant part about democracy and stuff was gone. Because I didn't record at that time, but I record the rest, so it's alright. It's just a random chat. So what just now what were we talking about? Chinese Communist Party?
The Opium Wars.
Opium Wars.
Yeah, Opium Wars.
The main thing about Opium War, the main consequences that we are seeing today is Hong Kong. The biggest. So other than whatever the war happened and how it destroyed the Qing Dynasty, that's another thing. The funny thing is, the Qing is a different country. It's like the Roman Empire, okay? It's like a Roman Empire. Then they signed a deal with the British, okay? To lease Hong Kong for 100 years. So imagine imagine a Roman Empire sign a deal to lease away, the Creek Island, to the Egyptians, put it that way, okay? Okay, then after that, Roman Empire collapsed. What happened to Crete? Is it now part of Egypt?
They would probably have the best rights to it, because not only did they lease it, but now they have their people there and controlling it. They probably have the best claim to it.
So what happened then next is the Byzantine Empire appeared, and they claimed that we are the rightful successor to the Roman Empire. Crete is ours. 100 years is up, you return back to Creek Island. Does it make sense?
It's not like in my head when I don't know the Hong Kong thing. I don't know much about it, but like history wise, when things collapse, usually they have no claims, but they say they do, and somebody already has that land, and that just goes into conflict every time. But
But the thing
man,
is, that's the
that's
stupidity, right?
interesting.
Like, you know, when I think about the signing of the Hong Kong, what we're talking about, right? The lease of it is that I think when the English did it, they would think by then they would already have claimed it as an empire, and the lease would never end. You know, if you really think about it, because at that time they were arrogant to that point. If you read anything about it, you know, I only know, you know, what little I have read about the Opium War, but it, you know, first of all, it was driven by, you know, the trade. You guys know what I'm talking about, but you know, the whole conflict was stupid. There was a lot of different stuff that happened in it, and it was all because of British arrogance, and it just blows my mind sometimes. But the founding of it is pretty interesting too. That in Singapore, all of it.
Well, I have a different view on the Opium Wars because I guess I approach it from more of an economic perspective. And the reality was that the British were there to do business, and so were a lot of Chinese. And if the Chinese had decided to make war to reclaim the territory, they could have, you know, they could have done it. And the reality is that there were a lot of Chinese political leaders and economic leaders that benefited greatly from Hong Kong. And in fact, one of the reasons that opium was imported into China was because the British could not have kept up the trade agreements with China through Hong Kong because it was so one-sided. And what I mean by that is China was very protectionist on a lot of industries. And so China wanted to export a huge amount of stuff, including tea, to the British, but also other stuff. So, and that was good for their industries, right? It was good for their economy. But they were very protectionist on most of their industries, and so they limited what the British could import into China. And this one-sided relationship threatened to actually break the whole thing down. And there was just as much inclination from the Chinese side to keep the relationship going as there was from the British side. We get told now that the evil British forced the Chinese to accept the opium. That's not entirely true.
No,
right?
no.
There were Chinese leaders that did want to break down the whole relationship, and they did want to expel the British from Hong Kong and end the trade relationship. But they weren't the only people in China. And all the people in China who were making money out of the export to the West through Hong Kong were very much against that. And they were very much in favor of allowing the British to import opium into China. So the way the history is taught now, you had like this unified Chinese rejection of opium imports. But the reality was that a lot of people in China were making a lot of money out of that joint economic relationship between the British Empire and the Chinese. And so to a large extent, the opium situation in China was a question of domestic Chinese politics. If there had been the political will to break off that, you know, nascent globalism that was going on, then they would have kicked the British out. The British did not have the power to dictate terms. This is a myth.
Oh,
you know, the idea that
then this I will disagree. So the anti-opium war is because the
I
Chinese
just want to
kicked
say
them out.
one thing before you begin. Toby, wasn't there? It's wild in my head, Wyatt, because you know an old guy, and I know I'm going to lose track of what I'm thinking about. But you mentioned it was economics, and wasn't there a point that the trade had gotten so like kind of one-sided that a lot of the silver in China was actually now not in China, it was everywhere else, and they had to actually restrict any silver payment or something like that happened at that one point?
Well, yeah, at one point in the deal it went like that, but much earlier in the deal it was the other way, right? At one stage the British were losing so much silver to China that they had to have a commodity that they were allowed to import into China, right? So the deal was going to break down one way or another because of this, the flow of precious metals, because of a one-sided trade deal. And opium was a way that the British could stop losing their silver and gold into China. And the reason that opium was chosen was it didn't break down any of the protectionist, you could call them protectionist rackets or policies of China. So the Chinese could keep their industries protected. But then the British weren't going to hemorrhage silver into China. Now, at a later stage, that you could make the argument that all the silver was leaving China, but I don't know enough about it. I wouldn't want to go on record as saying this was the case, but I strongly suspect that's not true, because the Chinese were exporting a huge amount of goods, including tea, into Europe through Hong Kong.
So my understanding is a bit different, because the main thing is Chinese don't need anything from the outside. That's the thing. That's the main problem. They don't need anything. Just like China today, they hardly needs anything from the outside. So the British have nothing to sell them. It's not that the British don't want to sell them anything or don't have things to sell them. It's the Chinese don't want to buy anything. They need nothing from the outside. Because you have to understand, the Qing Dynasty, the Qing Empire, Chinese people are very poor. They are all just farmers. They don't need anything. They just need food. So there's nothing. What if you have that, then you have a one-sided trade relationship, which is like very similar to USA and China today, which the history repeats itself. So so what the British Empire want, because they needed the tea, because they are buying a lot of tea. They want the Chinese tea. That's one of the biggest export that they are buying from China. But this is one-sided. China don't want anything from the British, so the British have to find something that the Chinese would buy. And then they realized that through opium, through addiction, they can have something to sell to China. And that's when they imported opium, open all these opium houses and everything. And then the Chinese, the Qing Empire realized that this is destroying their country. They tried twice to destroy. They burn all the opiums. They ban opium. They kick out all these foreigners. And then 2 times the Western power go to war to force China into accepting opium. So it's not that the British have no bargaining power. The bargaining power comes from the gun. They basically force them into it. So that's why the Opium War is called the Opium War, because it's all about selling opium into China. That's why the Chinese, until today, they have this like forever victim, the evil Western people, But the thing is, they are doing it exactly again now. China becomes self-sufficient. They don't need anything from the world except for natural resources, and then
hang on, here's the thing. You say they don't need anything, they don't want anything. The reality is they weren't allowed to import it. The Chinese had protectionist laws that prohibited
what would a farmer need?
Now, the British could have done the same thing with tea, right? The British could have said, we prohibit the import of tea into Britain. And that would have stopped all the trade and the exports from China. The reality is that it was a trade deal. It was a trade deal.
Oh, how can I drink the tea if I know tea, I'm not a British kind of thing,
but the British could have passed a law saying that, if you import tea into Britain from China, we'll put
then you have
death.
a revolt on your hand, right?
No, that's just protectionist policy. And the Chinese are able to maintain protectionist laws.
No.
It's not that the Chinese don't want things or don't need things. They're not allowed to buy the things because of the protectionism on the market.
So what do the British can sell to the Chinese?
That depends on the Chinese, doesn't it? And this idea that the British forced the Chinese to accept opium, this kind of makes the Chinese to be very powerless.
No, wait. Right? So you
it's
imagine,
cool to
there's no
protectionist
regime. No. There's no. Let's say assume there's no protectionist regime. Okay, you can sell anything to China. What can you sell as a British Empire? You can sell anything to China. What can you sell?
Well, it depends what you're allowed to sell.
No, you're allowed to sell anything. What does a British Empire have?
That wasn't the case.
Huh? No. It doesn't matter. Now assume that there's no protectionist measures.
Firearms for a start.
You don't want to sell them firearms.
Naval technology.
You don't want to sell naval technology because you don't want to make China's empire strong. So what else? What can you sell? That the farmers
Well,
will
what
buy.
do you-
You cannot sell firearms to the farmers. No,
Well, what about food?
they make their own food.
What if you can sell it cheaper? So you're assuming that there was no protection on the Chinese industries, and that's just not the case. The Chinese had rules about what could be imported, and the idea that the Chinese were powerless to stop opium, and that everybody in China agreed that importing opium was a bad idea, it's just not true. The reality is that the people that were making money exporting tea were perfectly fine for the British to import opium if it kept the tea market viable, right? And the British were perfectly fine on the Chinese exporting tea to Britain as long as they could sell something back. See, as long as the two trading blocks were making money, neither of them cared. What they didn't want was an imbalance of trade that would have led to a depletion of silver and metal reserves.
Yeah.
Right. And so they had to find a mutually agreeable solution. The way it's been painted in history is that one side were all powerful and the other side were victims and were weak. But it's just not, if you analyze the military power, it's just not the case. If China had not wanted to export the tea, if they were prepared
But they fought 2 wars over it.
cut off relations, the British couldn't have imported the opium into China.
No, but
the idea
military
that the
power
British forced the Chinese to
but
take
that's not accurate.
opium.
In the sense that the
It
military power, you see that
excuses
the
the
Chinese are
behavior of the Chinese warlords who wanted to export tea.
No. I disagree with the part where you say that the Qing Dynasty is like they have the military power to deal with the British. They can't. The Western power conquered Beijing. They just marched all the way to Beijing and conquered Beijing. They
They had a bit of help from the tea exporters in China. It wasn't
No, they
wasn't
can't.
a zero
They
sum
don't have the
game for the
military
Chinese.
power, even with the men. There is so many films being made in China about the fight against all these evil white people, white devils. Then they can't win. They're using swords. They have limited guns.
This is the myth.
They don't have
right?
enough.
This is the myth.
That's not the myth. That's the reality. They can't win.
That's
2
your
wars.
reality.
They fought 2 wars.
I don't believe it. I
They
don't
proved
believe
it
the
twice.
Chinese were so weak.
The
And also, it's suspicious. So many Chinese were making so much money out of the tea export trade. Do you think they wanted to kick the British out and ruin their tea market?
You understand the caste system? Like the India have a caste system, right? In China, there is a non-official caste system. So the traders, merchants are at the bottom in China's system. That means in the mind of the social system, like how we think of who is the most people we look up to, at the bottom is merchants. Traders are seen as the most disliked people because they are the laziest people in the ancient Chinese culture, because they don't produce anything. They only move things from one place to another. The farmers are being raised up as the people who you look up to. They are work hard, all these things. Traders are not. So the traders do not have that much power. The officials, maybe they have the power, because the officials, maybe they have corruption, they earn money from the trading. But the thing is that it doesn't change the fact that militarily they can't win the West. The West was so overpowered. And the British did not march in alone. Every time they go in as a collision of Western European powers. They all march together.
I understand the theory, but let me tell you a fantasy story. The imbalance of trade between China and America is because the Chinese forced the Americans to import all their goods. And until Trump came along and kicked out those Chinese, the Chinese dominated the Americans and forced the Americans to import all those Chinese goods.
No,
I mean, it's nonsense on the face of it, right?
That's a corruption of the facts. The facts is the Americans offshore all the factories into China, and that's the only place you can buy anything. No, that's
of course
the only
it's a
place you can buy
corruption of
anything.
the facts. It's nonsense on the face of it. The reason that there was a trade imbalance is because it suited elites in America to offshore all their trade into China, right? And this is what I'm saying about the tea farmers in China. If you see how much money was being made from this mutual agreement in Hong Kong, you recognize that there is a significant political benefit and economic benefit to a significant elite within China to import opium. And the idea that everybody in China was against it and couldn't possibly stop it is as silly as saying that everybody in America is against the Chinese imports and
I think
that
about
the Chinese were forcing the Americans to buy all this stuff.
Another thing
It's
about
a two-way
China,
street with trade.
ancient
It
China
always
is different. Ancient China don't work the same way as the West. The farmers have no power. The peasants have no power. They have no rights. They have no says. The rulers say you move from this town to this town, you follow. You have no
These
rights.
are the rulers that are growing tea, right, and exporting tea to Britain.
They export. They have no rights to the tea. They are just farmers.
I'm talking about the elites. The elites that are exporting the tea and that are getting money from the tea trade.
They are the government. They are the government officials. They are the people who controls the trade. They are the people who earns the money, not the farmers. The farmers are just farmers. They have no power, no rights, no nothing. They are just slaves. Essentially, they are peasants. Just like the medieval time of Europe, where the peasants are all just slaves, essentially, that serve the king. It's the same thing in China. So there is no such thing. There's no people wants to sell. The people don't care. People just want to eat. As long as they have things to eat, it will do. It is the people, the officials that are corrupted, because towards the end of the Qing Dynasty is very, very, very corrupted. So of course they want to sell and everything, but it is very government centric. Is largely the Qing Empire selling you the tea. It's not the people. There's no private companies that are selling you the tea. It's the empire that's selling you the tea. So
right, this is my point, right?
So it's different. There is no people's will. There's no Chinese people want to sell the tea. It's the empire that is selling the tea because it's bringing them.
No, I didn't make that point. I'm saying it's the elites in China that want to sell the tea because they make so much money selling the tea.
Yeah, but it's part of the empire. It's the kingdom that is selling you the tea. It's not the individual officials.
And they wanted to keep selling the tea, and that's why they allowed the opium in, because they didn't want to lose the market for their tea.
No, the thing is, the empire have to give the rights to sell. They have to give the permission. They cannot sell themselves. There is no companies in China in those times.
Okay, well, why didn't, if the British had all this military power to force the Chinese to accept these opium imports, then why didn't they use their military power to stop the Chinese making money from tea?
How?
Then they could have just...
How can you take something that you don't pay money for?
Military force. If the British had this military force and this control over all China, why allow the Chinese elites to make so much money from tea? Why not just take everything? Why not just drain China of all its silver reserves and say, you know what? We're not going to let you to make money on this deal. We're going to force you. We're going to use our military power to force you to take opium. And by the way, we're not going to let you take our silver by exporting tea because that doesn't suit us.
Yeah, that's why they sell the opium.
Sense.
No, that's why they sell the opium. The solution was not to go to a major war where they have to conquer and colonize China, but they just simply sell them opium. And when the Chinese rejected, they go to war and force the market to open. That is the game. They don't want another India. They because you have to understand, they despise, just like they despise the Indian, they despise the Chinese. You have to know the Chinese those days don't look like this. The Chinese those days are all very dark. They all in the sun every day. They all they are all very dark people. Long hair. They look very dirty. The Chinese then is the different China. Is a different world. So they are barbarians to the West. They don't want to conquer another group of barbarians. They just want the tea, and they cannot make the trade deal work. And you cannot force them into slavery because it doesn't work. You have to give something in return, but then selling them opium, you get the money, and then you can use this money.
Why do you have to give, if you've got this powerful military that can force the Chinese to do things, why do you have to make a deal work?
Just like the Americans are not conquering the whole world right now. It's the same reason.
Well, the other thing is, you're telling me that the reason that the Chinese didn't import other goods is because they didn't want them or didn't need them. So look at the world today. Is the reason that China doesn't import a lot of goods from the West because there are protectionist laws against it, or is it because the Chinese don't want these goods?
Sorry, again?
Well, look at the world today. Is the reason that there are so many barriers to importing goods into China or exporting them from the West into China, is that because the Chinese people don't want the goods, or is it because there's protectionist laws?
No, but it's a different
prohibit the import.
No, the Chinese is a different thing. The Chinese of those days are fucking poor. They have no money to buy anything. There is nothing the West can sell them that they need. They are self-sufficient in terms of food. They just need food. They only eat rice. They eat vegetable and rice and meat only in special occasions. They have no money to eat meat. I can tell you, even 30 years ago, when I go to China, Beijing, I go for a tour. Freaking hell, most of the tour, there's no meat. It's all vegetables. And those days are, they just opened up not too long ago. Freaking hell, I go to there's no meat and I don't eat vegetables. No, I was just like 13 years old. I hate vegetables. They only have a little bit of meat. And that is like, what the hell, man? So it's a different world. It's just a different world. I would disagree.
Okay, you're giving the tea importers a pass, or the exporters, but yeah, we lost the guys. They ran off.
Yeah, because WWII is not appearing, right? So
yeah.
Nope, she's back.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna bounce too. It's 11:30 here.
Hey, it's 11:30 for me too.
Is it? Oh, in the morning. We're just vice versa. So, do you guys want to schedule, another meetup?
Yeah, we'll talk to WWII, see what happened.
Yeah.
Let me know.
But I found this. You guys should just keep going and just record it. No. Listen, it's information being debated, and it's very informative because you're asking questions of each other, and just don't talk over each other, or I'll have to rip through the screen and kill you full.
Yeah, but I need
You know what I mean?
I'm making apologetics for the British, which is not something I want to go on record as doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say. All right, you guys have a good night.
Okay.
All right, Matty. Take
Good
it
night,
easy,
Matty.
brother. All right.
All right, bye.
Bye. Yeah. Anyway, I need to work
So-
as well. So if you are not doing the recording, then
All right.
I
Cool
can do
bananas,
my
man.
work.
All right. Me
Bye,
too.
Toby.
All right. See you then.
Bye.